Oh, hang on a minute. I might have done something wrong.
It's okay.
I'm here. I just got to. Oh, there we go.
Hi, how are
Oh,
you? Okay, so I can't see my screen because the sun is kind of hitting me right in the eyes. Can you tell me first of all, can you see me well,
yep.
or do I look like I'm in shadow?
Nope.
No.
No,
Okay,
you look
good.
fine. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so first of all, hello. How are you?
Good, good.
How are things going?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay, so that doesn't sound, but it's okay. It's all right.
Oh, it's just like, I don't know, same old, Nothing exciting.
Really? Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that,
Oh, well.
I mean, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with regularity.
All right. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Okay.
So can you get your birth chart up on here so I can look? I text him his birth chart so as I could follow it with the phone.
Okay. So we're going to take 1 second real quick, and then I'm going to start the introduction. And so one thing that I noticed with the last video that I did with Christy when I was editing, so if she was trying to talk when I was trying to talk, it did a weird thing where I would miss a good portion of what both of us were saying. So once I kind of start doing the transit reading, try not to interrupt is what I'm saying. I know that sounds like rude, but try not to interrupt. Okay. All right.
No
So
worries.
let's take a second. Oh, well, I'll ask you in just 1 second. Let me make sure that everything looks okay, and then I'll do the introduction. Gotta make sure the hair looks good. You ready for this? You look good?
My hair look good?
Your hair looks great.
Ah.
All right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to do a transit reading with my friend Les. Les, can you say hello to everyone?
Hi.
So he has very kindly agreed to allow me to do a transit reading for him. As you guys know, if you've been watching the other videos that I've done recently, I've been trying to do a transit reading for each of the either new moon or full moon readings that I put out on my page, Kiss My Astrology. And Les has been very kind to agree to allow me to do his transit reading here on video for you. So before we keep going, there's one thing that I forgot to ask you real quick, Les, which is how open are you? Because there are some things that are coming up in the reading, but if you are not comfortable talking about them, we can actually stop it right here and do a new introduction. And the reason that I say that is because it has to do with like sex and sexuality. And so if you are not sure that you actually want that on a video that's like out there in the public, we don't have to talk about that. And I'll just say, oh, it's possible relationship issues that are coming in, and I won't say anything about any of that stuff. But I will explain some of it to you beforehand. It's totally up to you.
Not so good.
Not so good?
Yep.
Okay,
no, it's all good. All good. All good.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
You're totally fine.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. So for those who don't know, you could probably hear my friend Wendy in the background. Wendy is one of my students. I teach astrology and tarot to those who wish to learn. I do it mentoring one-on-one. And so Wendy asked him if he would agree to be one of my guinea pigs, one of my test subjects for these videos. So I'm going to go ahead and hit share screen. And what we're going to do first is I'm going to actually go over the general reading portion of the full moon energies, and then we're going to do your transit reading. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
And this little blue dot that we have up here?
Yep.
Okay, so this chart here is the chart for the full moon in Virgo. And if you have watched any of my other videos, I don't know if this little square window that has my actual camera view. The view of me on it is hiding what I have written in the corner of this. If so, I apologize. I'm not sure how to fix that. But if you've watched any of my videos, you know that when I do a new moon astrology forecast, those are intended for people in our circle who want to set intentions. These can be intentions for anything. And if you are in our circle, you know what I mean when I say that. So I'm not going to go too much into the explanation of it. And then along with that, the companion forecast to that are the what did I create 6 months later? It's a full moon in, and this month it's going to be a full moon in Virgo video. And so those are companions to the new moon, being that if you set your intention at the new moon, then you would want to see how that intention is manifesting at the full moon, which happens 6 months later. So for this Virgo reading, we actually are looking back, or you would want to look back at where you were 6 months ago, which would be September of 2021. Actually, September the 7th was the new moon in Virgo of 2021 for you, Les, in Australia. For those of us here in like the Los Angeles area, it would have been on September the 6th of last year. So for those watching this, you'll want to think back to what was going on in your life at that time. And for you personally, I'm going to talk about that in your transit reading, okay? So if you think about what was going on for yourself at that time and you're asking what's manifesting now, and I'm looking at this particular reading, I have to be really honest with everyone here. Like the very first thing that I notice when I look at this reading, because for me, I always look to the ascendant first, even if this is a full moon reading, if it's a manifestation reading, you want to look at the ascendant because it's the birth of something. The new moon would be the conception, full moon is the birth. So as I'm over here looking at the ascendant, the first thing that I notice is we've got the South Node in conjunction to Hygeia in the 12th house, which means automatically you've got an opposition happening over here to the 6th house. And you can see that we have Uranus in conjunction to the North Node in the 6th house. Why is that important? Hygeia has to do with health. Anything that happens in the 12th house, the 6th house, and the 8th house in a chart, those are called the houses of ill fortune, right? And I'm not trying to scare anybody, just right off the bat. I'm not trying to scare anybody with this reading. I'm just giving you guys what I see right off the bat as soon as I look at this full moon reading, okay? So already we've got placements in all three of these houses. And so I'm not a medical astrologer, but I do like to study some things. And so I happen to know a little bit about medical astrology. And since we have Hygeia here, which has got me thinking there's some sort of health issues going on, especially because this is, like I said, it's in conjunction with the South Node. It's in the 12th house. So this could be some sort of health issue that you either have been avoiding or are not aware of in some way. For your own personal life, you'll know which end of the spectrum you fall on. So being in the 12th house, it's in your blind spot. So this is something that you're not paying attention to, like I said, or you're not aware of. But being in opposition to the 6th house is the house that deals with health issues. And having Uranus down here, Uranus is chaotic energy. An opposition between Uranus to Hygeia tells me there could be some sort of sudden something that happens either because you don't know that you've got a hidden health issue or because there's a health issue that you've been ignoring, where maybe there's some advice if this was a medical reading, a medical astrology reading, the 6th house would be the illness, the 7th house would be the doctor, the 8th house would be any surgery. And I just have to say, when the vertex falls in the 8th house, this is a placement that can talk about surgery. So let's say you have heart issues, which, Les, I know that you do have heart issues and you were recently actually hospitalized for your heart issues. So this is where this part of the reading will actually pertain to you, even though it's not your actual transit reading. But let's say you have heart issues and the doctor has given you advice. This is the doctor right here. And you can see we've got Lilith sitting in Gemini in this house here. Okay. And so Lilith in Gemini, this is going to be words, communication that is troublesome in some way, either because you don't like what you're hearing, or because what you're hearing is false, or it's gossip, or it's cruel, or there's something about it that is causing a problem, right? So the doctor over here is, you know, for those people who know they have a health issue, the doctor's giving them advice and they don't want to hear it, so they ignore it, and then boom, something happens because Uranus is over here, and this is the full moon. Remember, this is manifestation energy. So, you know, if something happens over here and now you've got a surgery you've got to have, right? Like, who wants to do that, especially if it's something that you can work on now? Because especially as we're recording this, you've got a month before this particular full moon. So if there's any changes you need to make, any doctor's appointments you need to make, anything like that, do it. Now, conversely, on the other side, and actually there's two more things that I want to bring up. So let's say you don't know that there's a health issue, and I'm actually going to talk about the other two issues together in one, because they'll make sense both ways. You'll understand what I'm saying if I just condense it. So let's say you have a surgery scheduled, right? And particularly this is going to be for those people who have Sagittarius rising or Sagittarius prominent in their chart, or Scorpio or Taurus. Okay, it could be other fixed signs, but mainly this is going to be Scorpio, Taurus, or Sagittarius. So let's say you've got a surgery scheduled already, but there's something about the doctor. Let's say the doctor is even very popular. The doctor has great ratings. Everybody loves this doctor. This is a very, very famous doctor, or whatever, or the procedure is famous, or there's some sort of supplement that somebody is trying to sell you that's famous, that's really popular, that everybody's using. But there's something about the information that you're being told that you're like, I don't know. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. I know everybody else is recommending this. I know the doctor is saying I need to have this surgery right away because I've got this thing that just suddenly happened to me. I'm not saying don't have the surgery. I'm saying ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can, especially if you've got that weird inkling, that weird like intuition that's like, I don't know, there's just something about this doctor. Even if it's just that you don't like their bedside manner and you think they may not be as nurturing as you'd like them to be, question it. Get a second opinion. Find out how much time you have before you absolutely have to have this surgery. Are you going to die if you don't have this surgery right away, or whatever it is? Okay. So enough of my dire warnings. Beyond that, this could also be, you know, something that has to do with, I don't know, career and integrity issues, right? Because when the moon is in the 10th house, there's popularity there. There is attention there. There can even be fame sometimes when the moon, especially if it was in Leo in the 10th house, but having the moon there, like there's a need for attention, and also integrity becomes very important to you. So if this is not a health issue for the general population, but there's something going on in your life that comes in unexpectedly, right? It comes in from your blind spot, and you're thinking like some kind of way. Your intuition is like, man, I don't know. There's just something about this, particularly if there's some sort of money attached to it in some way where you may have to spend money. You know, get a second opinion, do your research, do whatever you need to. Just follow your intuition. It will not steer you wrong. Like, that is what this Neptune Sun conjunction right here is all about. Whenever you have Neptune and the Sun in conjunction, it's like anytime the sun is this close to another planet, the sun is so bright that it tends to like overpower the other planet. But Neptune is so spiritual that there could be like hidden messages that only you see, that other people don't see. And that's why I say, even if other people or everyone is recommending it, or the doctor and everyone around you is telling you, you should do this, you should do this, but in your heart and in your mind, you're like, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right. Trust yourself. Okay. Trust yourself. So now we're going to move to your particular transit reading. So this chart that we're looking at right now, this is your chart or your transit chart from September the 7th, 2021. And this is just to kind of see where you were at that time. And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but what I'm particularly seeing in this chart has to do with your relationships and what you want in terms of love and relationships in particular. And so I really, really hope that you're okay with the things that I'm getting ready to say, because, you know, we're getting ready to go deep, and I'm actually going to put a parental advisory warning on this video because we're getting ready to talk about like sex and sexuality and preferences, right? And I think, okay, based on some placements that you have here in your chart. And what I'm actually going to do before I talk about the transits here, and explain so much about the transits, I want to explain a little bit about your natal chart, even though I know I've gone over your natal chart with you before. I just want to review it because there's some points to your natal chart that are going to be important to what's happening with this transit reading, okay? So the first thing that I notice with your natal chart is that you are Virgo rising, and your rising happens to fall right about at the middle of the Virgo energy, or of the sign of Virgo. And another thing about Virgo is that Virgo is at about the middle of the zodiac. So in terms of maturity level, and we're talking about personality, right? In terms of maturity level, like spiritual maturity level, you're about middle-aged when it comes to that, right? You, I think, tend to straddle the line. And I think because you have Pluto and Uranus in the first house, you are very, you like to look for where you can push the line. Not only do you like to push the line, you like to control the line. You like control very much, and you can tend to be a little bit explosive if you lose control, or if somebody tries to cross a boundary that you have set. And you know, I think that you believe, and I'm, you know, again, look at, it's all truth here, but it all comes from love, okay? I think that you believe, because you've got Libra filling out the rest of your first house, you believe that the boundaries that you set, the rules, the law that you put down is what's best for everyone and all involved, but it might not be. Okay. I think this is you feeling that you need to have this sense of power, because first of all, let's talk about Pluto in the first house. This is not an easy aspect to begin with, but your Pluto happens to be at 29 degrees of Virgo, which means it's at the anaretic degree, or it's a very difficult placement to have Pluto. Okay. Anytime you have Pluto in the first house, it's a difficult placement, but to have it at 29 degrees of Virgo, it's going to make it even more difficult, because Pluto tends to be a little bit obsessive and paranoid and suspicious, and Pluto wants to dig deep and investigate everything, and Pluto loves power. Pluto loves control. Oh my God. And Uranus is rebellious. Uranus is chaotic. Uranus is explosive. Okay. And so Virgo likes to pay attention to the details, but because Pluto is sitting at that 29 degrees, it's like you can't let go of whatever it is that didn't go right, because there's some small detail, and that's usually what you'll get stuck on. Some small detail about what happened, whatever the wrong is, that small detail is going to be the one thing that sticks in your craw and makes you angry, right? And you're going to have something to say about it. And the reason that this is going to be so hard, also above and beyond having Pluto in the first house at the 29th degree, is that your moon is in Gemini in the 10th house at the 29th degree, and it's an exact square to Pluto. So not only is Pluto in the first house difficult energy to have a square to your moon makes it more so, because the moon is your emotional energy. This is how you see yourself, what you fear, what you worry about, the nightmares, but it's also your dreams and your fantasies and your intuition, and you know, the way that you see women and femininity, right? And so to have that hard aspect to Pluto, there's this sort of need to control those softer aspects and emotions, like I think it's difficult for you to be in your emotions like that, because you probably do get a little bit obsessed, and it's hard to pull yourself out of it. So let's talk about another placement that you have in your chart that's actually very difficult. You happen to have Saturn up here in the 9th house it's at 4 degrees of Gemini, and this is a critical degree of Gemini. So this is another difficult placement. So why is that important? This is Saturn in the 9th house. So Saturn in Gemini wants to communicate, but feels restricted when it comes to communication. But being in the ninth house, this is your higher self. This is your higher values. This is your belief system, right? This is what you think should be right and true, like in the way that the world works, or at least the way that your world works, right? This is your spiritual life. Okay. And so there are things that you would like to communicate, but you feel restricted by it, probably by society in some way. And I think those things that you feel restricted by have to do with sex, sexuality, and preferences. And I say that because you have a Venus and Mars conjunction in Gemini in the ninth house. And the other thing that's bothering me about this particular Venus and Mars conjunction is that Venus is enclosed by both Mars and Saturn and the moon, which is in a difficult aspect to Pluto. And then if you come over here, Saturn is creating a T-square to Neptune, or excuse me, it's creating an opposition to Neptune and a sextile to Mercury. Now, why is that important? Why is all of that important? It's because of what's happening to Venus up here. Venus is your love energy. This is your softness. This is your feminine energy, your feminine side. This is what you are attracted to, and this is what is attractive about you, right? This is like how you love, what you enjoy, all of those things when it comes to love, right? Especially when it's in conjunction with Mars, and it's up here in like your ninth house. So this can be any type of relationship where everything that you do is going to be colored by how you feel, but because you feel so restricted and being enclosed by two malefics, your Venus isn't going to be able to be expressed the way that it needs to be expressed, because even though you've got this sextile to Mercury, Mercury rules your ascendant, okay? And then so Mercury is over here in Aries, but Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is in conjunction with Venus, who happens to be sandwiched between Mars and Saturn. So Mars and Mercury are in mutual reception because, by the way, Mercury also rules Gemini. So they're both in mutual reception, and you've got Saturn over here, and they're all of them are bullying Venus. They're all bullying Venus, but it's all coming from within. It's not coming from the outside. This is coming from your own head, your own mind, your own heart, because somewhere along the way, somebody taught you that relationships, family, and family long-term structures, when it comes to that, have to look a certain way, right? And I don't think you want them to look a certain way. You can tell me if I'm completely wrong, but I think you would prefer to have something that looks a little bit more like a throuple, right? And if you like a throuple, which is a long-term threesome. This is a couple or a long-term relationship with three people. I think I happen to know, but I don't know how many other people in your life know that you're bisexual, but I think you would probably be happiest, like if you were to really do the shadow work and ask yourself these questions. I think you would probably be happiest if you were in a relationship with both sexes, with two people, because that's how you would be able to have both feminine energy and masculine energy. But also for you, I think this was kind of your focus back in September with this Virgo new moon, even if it wasn't really something that you actually put into action, but I think you might have. And the reason that I say that is because down here you've got Mars in conjunction to your Pluto. But I think at least at this point, you was like you were seriously in your head about it. You were given serious thought to like, what is it that you really want in terms of relationships and family and long-term, like what do you want for your life moving forward? What would make you happy? And I think that maybe you've started to kind of like actively express and look for that, maybe even dating more or telling people what it is that you're attracted to and what you like. But I do think that you might be like your own worst enemy a little bit when it comes to that. And I'll tell you why as we get over here to this is your transit reading coming up for the full moon in Virgo in March, because I think relationships were your focus 6 months ago, even if you didn't put it into action, but I think you might have put it into action in some way, whether that's a post that you put on social media, something you said to a friend, even if it was in private, something that you wished for, like in a prayer or anything like that, or just giving serious thought to changing and doing your own shadow work so that you can attract the kind of relationship that you want. And by the way, if you haven't done that, that is going to be my big advice for you for this particular transit reading, because I think the fact that this was your focus 6 months ago is bringing at least the possibility or some options in for you now. And I say that because of this Neptune Sun conjunction and the way that it's hitting your vertex in the 7th house, and how that's actually coming into a conjunction with your Mercury in Aries. So once the Sun and Neptune, or basically the Sun, but Neptune more so, once Neptune comes into conjunction with your Mercury, I think you're going to have some sort of chance at what you want, right? But you're going to have to do some shadow work before that, because I think it's going to make you scared. And I think the things that you're going to worry about are centered around like appearance issues, whether that is your own appearance or the other appearance of the other person, right? So, and that's the thing. Okay, so if it is your own appearance, don't worry about it. Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go for it. Like, go with the energy. If it's the other person's appearance that you worry about, don't worry about that either. Literally just go with the energy, right? Because the way that Hygeia is conjoining your Hygeia right now tells me this is a serious focus for you. Like, this is probably what is triggering this Moon Pluto energy that is going to have you feeling like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, when this, like, I think you're going to feel it intuitively coming in, is what I'm saying. You'll start to feel it sometime around the full moon, and you're going to start to get a little bit nervous. But I think instead of worrying about how you look or how they look, just pay attention to the energy. Like, just try to pay attention to the energy. Even if it doesn't work out, just pay attention to the energy. And also, that's why I want you to pay attention to the energy. Don't let the fear overcome you, okay? If you need to do any shadow work, whatever it is, to find out why you feel those things, you know, definitely do that, because it's really going to help you moving forward. But just go by energy, okay?
Yep.
So, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you want to tell me about, or like anything that you want me to clarify, anything that you want to confirm that I said in the reading, or anything like that?
No. So the options are definitely going to arise.
Yeah, I think you're going to start to feel intuitively that they're going to, like, the options are coming. So can I ask you, like, have you been dating more? Have you been kind of going out into the dating scene more, like maybe going to clubs more, or, you know, being more vocal about it?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so you might want to do that. You just want to know, like, when the options are going to come in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I did not do in this particular transit reading was calculate to see like when Neptune is going to make that conjunction with your Gemini, or excuse me, with your Mercury. But I can actually do that after we end the video, and I'll send that to you in a message, a private message on Facebook. To kind of give you a pretty good idea of when you can start, you know, expecting to see somebody come in that you might be attracted to. And so if you're attracted to them and you feel their energy is good, you got to speak up. Okay. You can't be nervous about it. You got to speak up and you know, put in that shadow work too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this point, I'm going to end the video, but Wendy, don't go anywhere because we're going to finish class. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.